Welcome back, everybody. It is the Working Brother back at you with another talk. Yet again, we've got Drago Bosnic. Drago, welcome back. How you doing? It's been forever. It's like we don't see each other. We don't talk anymore. Like, what's wrong with you, man?
If I had any singing, talent, I would say we don't talk anymore. I would sing it, but maybe it's better.
Maybe it's better than neither you nor I sing. We'll leave this as a comedy show, not a talent show.
Yeah.
In any case, everybody who's new here, hi, welcome. This is a comedy show. If you haven't realized, the comedy is terrible. It might be the worst comedy on YouTube. We try though. We really try. Also, in case you missed the inside joke, there's another episode that we just recorded today, and then there's one that we tried to record a couple of days before that. It's also out there somewhere. There might have been something uploaded in between these. We don't know, because we can't foretell what happens in the future. But we can tell you to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And tell you that we are going to get into some hilarious propaganda and some details about the love lives of some comical characters.
Deeply comical characters.
Also known as Gunter. But we won't be making fun of any women. Because we hear there's a trend. Actually, let me pop up that meme and get that out of the way, because it's been like 3 recordings that I've been like trying to get that squeezed in somewhere. So let me pop up that meme and get it out of the way. New York Post, I thought it was a meme. It's an actual article. Making women look dumb is a disturbing new podcast trend. So we won't be making women look dumb. We do not follow trends here. But we have this thing about the Putin's espionage fleet. We'll get into that a little later, but I just wanted to prove that this is actually a New York Post disturbing trend, new article. Look, it's real. I cannot believe it. As you should also not be able to believe it. We'll get into this in a little bit. We did a preview of this Deutsche Welle propaganda, but right now, let's get into Trump derangement syndrome. Out of control. As Deep State, that Ukrainian mapping page that we talk about, tries defamation. You mean this guy's a Hitler?
Yeah, pretty much.
Like
pretty much.
The literal Hitler.
I've mentioned that in the article because I saw several articles about him being Hitler. And then a friend of mine who's from the U.S. told me that they counted at 5 days ago or something like that. They counted 6,000 articles comparing where Trump is compared to Hitler. So that's interesting, Only, yeah. Only. And we're talking about just in the days prior to the election, until that day. There could be like 12,000 at this point now. And of course, just calling Trump Hitler is not enough. It might even backfire, which probably it does to a certain degree. But they need actual stories about Trump doing bad things, And, the fact that they had the DOJ or the Department of Justice in the U.S. Tried to indict him for allegedly having sex with a porn star, as if that's a crime of some kind. You could expect anything, right? It's interesting how the DOJ suddenly realizes its morals are so important to it when they need to fight Trump. So in this specific case, there are 2 accusations that appeared in the last few days, and that's that Trump raped a woman called Stacey Williams, a former model, and she claims that Epstein and Trump essentially made it happen back in 1993. So the good question would be about this is, why did she remember this story right now before the election, over 30 years later? So that's an interesting, plot twist.
I gotta ask you, are you clicking your mouse?
Yes, I did click my mouse now.
No, like you're moving it around and clicking it while you're talking, yeah?
Yeah, I did.
All right.
You can hear it, right?
Yeah, because if it's not your mouse, and it's definitely not my mouse, somebody else is listening to this recording. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, and that would be bad. I actually
but
wanted to open the article and quote the woman for the other case, and the other case is that there's this like the first case that I mentioned with Stacey Williams. That's this like the sex scandal, but that wasn't enough. They want to make sure, because if you look at the demographics of voters in America, you can see that minorities and women are obviously the majority of voters, right? Like women are 53% of the population. If you add in minorities, and if you keep, talking about feminism and need to improve the rights of minorities, then you can win any election, right? That's the logic. So they have the sex scandal, right? And that checks out the women. Like that's the attempt to dissuade women from voting for Trump. And then you have the minorities. And this other case is about a woman called Vanessa Guillen. I hope I read the last name right. And she was killed back in 2020. She was a U.S. soldier. And according to a report by The Atlantic, Trump was allegedly outraged when he learned that Guillen's funeral, which included heightened security and closed streets, cost $60,000. And quoting anonymous sources, The Atlantic reports that Trump said that it doesn't cost $60,000 to bury a fucking Mexican. So, the interesting thing about this is that this would destroy his, if this were true, it would destroy his support among Mexicans and Black Americans and, who knows who else. But one problem with this is a complete, fake. And the best part is
there an audio recording of this?
No, there's nothing. Like there's only the anonymous sources from the Pentagon or the White House
the same anonymous sources that they always have.
Yeah,
group
exactly.
of anonymous sources.
They confirmed the story to The Atlantic, and The Atlantic of course ran the story. However, the sister Myra of the woman who was killed back in 2020, she was so upset by this because the story goes like it's the complete opposite. And she said, "I don't appreciate how you are exploiting my sister's death for politics, hurtful and disrespectful to the important changes she made for service members." Guillen's sister Myra posted on X condemning Atlantic's highly politicized reporting and adding, "President Donald Trump did nothing but show respect to my family and Vanessa. In fact, I voted for President Trump today." Talk about shooting yourself in the foot with this one. So, like, she didn't only debunk the story, she actually showed support for Trump. And, she said that, he was respectful towards them and her family. And then one of the White House staffers, when Trump was the president, actually confirmed this. And he said that this is not true, that Trump never said anything like it. And then he instructed his spokesperson, a guy called Ben Williamson, to demand The Atlantic remove the deliberate disinformation. However, the Atlantic just changed one thing, and they said nobody heard Trump say it. Like they didn't negate the fact that the alleged fact he said it.
They pre-bunked it.
Yeah,
they pre-bunked it.
Like they just said he didn't hear Trump say this. And then they, that's the only change they added. So they didn't actually remove the disinformation. As you said, they just pre-bunked it. So
I need a pop-up. It's pre-bunked. I'm going to get a pop-up. I have to get a pop-up. I'm going to write that down.
I couldn't remember all these names, and what exactly the sister of the late Vanessa said. So I had to, that's why I'm clicking. I had to find the exact quote of that one. So it was so interesting, it's so interesting to see these guys from the deep state and from the Democrats losing their fucking minds because they can't get Trump in any other way. They tried killing him 3 times or 4 times at this point. I can't even remember anymore. Who counts? And it doesn't work, right? It failed, and now they're desperately trying to get him in some other way, and it's becoming comical. At this point, even if there's a video of him doing something, I don't think most Americans would believe it, because they see the desperation in the deep state just to make sure he doesn't become the president.
You know what other deep state has desperation? The Ukrainian mappers who are sure that there's North Koreans in Russia. Well, now in Ukraine, maybe. But the point is, I'm going to approach this differently. Because this is an old article, as everything that we discuss is like old news. This is technically not that old, because it's October 28th. And it is the 2nd now as we record it, the early hours of the 2nd. So, it's possible that by the time this airs, the actual proof surfaces that there are and have been North Korean troops in the Kursk Oblast working for the Russians. I use the term working loosely, as I am a working brother. How would you deal with such information? Like, is it possible? Like, we're going to get into this article, but is it possible that this is true?
Yeah, as I said, in the previous episode, it is. Like, there could be some North Korean troops in Russia. However, like, we need to break it down. What sort of troops? Like, if those are high-ranking officers whose job is to, as I said before, to help integrate North Korean weapons into the Russian military, we can't really think of them as combatants. Like, they're not charging Ukrainian trenches, and fighting.
They're actual advisors, as opposed to the Western ones and medics.
Exactly. Like, they're actual advisors. And the other thing is, there could be ground forces, especially these like special forces of the North Korean army, or if I'm not mistaken, it's called the People's Army of Korea or something like that. I forgot the exact acronym in English. So the whole point is, if I'm not mistaken, the last numbers I've seen, there are 88,000 special forces in the North Korean military. So, it's very possible. It's, as I said, it's not outside of the realm of possibility that these guys have been sent. Some of them, let's say, the last number I saw was like 1,500 to 3,000, that they were sent to Russia to train with the Russian forces that have actual combat experience in a high intensity warfare. Or they could also be part of, battle groups of Russian special forces. So the whole point is, it's not impossible, but what is impossible, and what I really think is not the case, is that you have regular North Korean troops who are fighting alongside the regular Russian army against the regular, forces of the Kiev regime.
You know what?
That's some.
I just had a Marcus Reisner moment, and I'm gonna do this in the full Marcus Reisner mode. But if they are North Korean and they don't put their uniform in the North Korean uniform with the North Korean flag, I'm doing it in North Korean, Mark Reisner. They are not North Koreans. They are just Russian soldiers who are wearing a Russian uniform. And they cannot be charged as North Koreans, so they are not changing anything. Yeah. Hey.
That sounds like a North Korean Wehrmacht officer or something like that.
Right? North Korean. What's his name? Marcus? Is his name Marcus? I forgot. Reisner?
Yeah, Marcus Reisner, if I'm not mistaken.
There's a North Korean or Marcus Reisner impression right there.
Yeah, I mean, like, as I said, you might have these soldiers who are, like, let's say, volunteers, or they, as I said, they could be special forces or whatever. But I highly doubt it that there are tens of thousands, of North Korean formations and units, because first of all, it will be very difficult to integrate these guys into the Russian military, because first of all, they don't speak Russian, or at least most of them don't speak Russian, I guess. And
how do you know, man? How do you know, man? Maybe North Korean special forces, the first thing they do is learn Russian.
Yeah, special forces, surely, like, maybe, but I'm talking about regular soldiers. I really doubt that regular soldiers, would do that. So again, because I'm getting so much information about this from the Western media, I'm always skeptical. Like if they tell me the sky is blue and it's daylight in 2 a.m. In 2 p.m. I'm going to go outside to see if that's true. Just
to make sure. Yeah. I don't know. As far as I know, Russian Spetsnaz, they need to be bilingual at least in order to be Spetsnaz. Like they need to learn another language in order to be Spetsnaz, from what I understand. So why would that not be the same for the North Koreans?
Yeah. The special forces for sure. Special forces like a whole different story. Like and these are highly capable people. Most of them are not just like grunts who carry assault rifles or machine guns. Most of them are highly skilled in other stuff. Some of them are hackers. Some of them are specialists in other things. I'm pretty sure like these are very, very capable people, but this is why we can't talk about large scale deployments, because special forces by definition are like a very small number of like a very small portion of the entire military. If we look at it from a global perspective. So.
Okay, I think as far as North Korean special forces, by themselves, we've beaten this topic dead. But here you approach it as it being an excuse for US/NATO direct involvement, quote unquote, as if they haven't been directly involved so far.
This is the problem, this is one of the issues. They say something and then they say, if you do this, we will bomb you, or we will do something to you, or we will sanction you. And then this country does precisely that. It's what happened to us when they were bombing us. They said, oh, stop killing Albanians. Albanians are all these like peaceful civilians. They were not doing anything in Kosovo. You're just killing them just because, just for the heck of it. You just decided to do that. After 80 years of living with them, you just decided to, kill them today, which is ridiculous, obviously. But the point is, if they have a complete media control, you have no idea what's happening on the other side, right? And this is why I'm skeptical about this. Like they're saying, oh, if there are North Korean troops in Russia, we will, intervene directly. That's what, some of the people at the Pentagon said publicly. Like they were saying this in front of cameras. And then like 2 days later, you have all this evidence of North Korean troops, fighting. And, some of them are like returning in body bags as per CNN. And obviously the CNN never lies. We've never experienced a single lie from the CNN, especially during the 90s. So
CNN said they're returning in body bags.
Yeah, like CNN said, there are North Koreans who are returning in body bags already. Like they're already dying.
Americans are just having accidents with helicopters and skiing accidents, as we discussed. Avalanches are hitting hard this time of year.
Those special forces from the U.S. and NATO, sometimes they would just choke on a croissant, or the coffee would be too hot, and
no body bags.
Yeah. It, like the throat would swell and they would die. So yeah.
I think we've covered this article, or this little
pretty much
gem. Internet censorship. Oh yay. Don't forget to subscribe while you can. Half of you are not subscribed for some reason. I understand like your privacy and whatever, but just like subscribe. It costs nothing. Also, while we're doing the censorship thing, and while I'm saying subscribe, where are my pop-ups? There they are. You can buy me a coffee. Also, thank you if you bought me a coffee. Thank you to the patrons, because this channel is not eligible for monetization. All right, now that that's done, total censorship becoming the norm in the political West. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to pre-bunk it. I'm going to pre-bunk it and tell you that you're wrong. That's my pre-bunking. I need a pop-up. I so need a pop-up. Like, it's just going to be like huge across the whole screen. It's going to be like pre-bunked.
Actually, I posted, the Ursula von der Leyen speech, the link to her speech precisely in this article.
Nice.
And I think people have seen it in the previous recordings. So I actually wrote this because a very important actually and truly independent American media outlet called Consortium News was removed. They were hacked, and their website was removed entirely. So
time out. What do you mean removed? Define removed.
It was just hacked. Like if you click on Consortium News, you would get some random page about, I don't know, buying or renting apartments or something like that. And
okay, so their domain was hacked.
Yeah, they were hacked. Yeah, their domain was hacked, and they returned. They were able to return now. Like they've unhacked themselves, if that's the term. But the point is, like, it's a very peculiar timing because it's just days before the election, and these people are very, very critical of everything that's going on in Washington.
Are you saying anonymous? Are you saying anonymous is possibly a government op?
Yeah. Although that's a conspiracy theory, I'm not saying it's true, but who knows?
I said possibly, allegedly, and this is a comedy show. Allegedly. Don't worry about it.
But the timing was very, very similar to what happened to Fort Rush News, and I mentioned this in the article. For those people who don't know, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people have forgotten because it was like 4 years ago at this point. The Fort Rush News was a website. It was based in Belgrade, obviously, and I was one of the senior editors there. Our friend DeFlorist, he was the editor-in-chief, and we worked. This is where I started my career as a journalist, and I've always liked Fort Rush News, and I still lament the fact that it doesn't exist anymore. But the point is, we got hacked. The Fort Rush News got hacked exactly like a few days before the election, a few weeks and days before the election. And I remember at that time, like you couldn't like load a single page. You would try to log in, and then you couldn't even like open the page to write the title of the article, let alone like paste the text of the article. So it was that bad. And then after the election and after everything that was going on, after the Biden administration came to power, the website eventually got removed completely, and now you can only find it on the web archive. So it's
and
very
now
interesting.
The web archive now the web archive is removed and gone. Also, it's been hacked again. In case you missed it.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that too. I still posted the links to the web archive and Fort Rush News, in case that it gets unhacked at some point. But the whole point is they want to make sure, obviously, that they have the complete control of the media space. That's the only way they can manipulate, the opinions of millions of people. Because how else are in psychos and lunatics like them how would they ever get win elections in any normal society? Well, never, I suppose. But if they have a complete media control, then you don't get the chance to see the other narrative. The only narrative you're getting is from the Dem, from the deep state, from the DNC, or whatever you want to call them. Obviously, I'm not saying the Republicans are much better. They're slightly better because they don't want nuclear war. Most of them, at least, especially those who are for Trump, they don't want nuclear war because it's very bad. In stark contrast to them, you have the DNC and the deep state who are talking about a winnable nuclear war and an acceptable damage, collateral damage in such a war. So I think it's pretty logical who you would choose if you were remotely sane. Obviously, it would be best if America had some new, political force that's going to be a lot more normal than either of those two options. But because it doesn't exist at this point, or they don't allow the emergence of such a force, you just choose the lesser of two evils, I guess.
I'm wondering, as you're talking about all that stuff in media censorship, I'm wondering which of the many jokes and themes for comedy do I want to bring up next? And I think it's time to revisit that preview that we had of that Deutsche Welle. Putin's fleet, Russian espionage in the Baltic Sea. Let's take it from the top, as they say.
Not far from Copenhagen, a Russian ship is making its way from St. Petersburg across the Baltic Sea. The
Subscribe.
Sibiryakov is no ordinary research vessel. It does not simply explore sea routes and oceans. It has a secret mission.
Secret mission.
A mission that has put the military and intelligence services in Europe on alert.
Are
The
you
Danish
scared?
military does not let the ship out of its sight.
Be afraid.
On board the supposed
Be very
research
afraid.
vessel, armed soldiers. What is the mission of the Sibiryakov?
You probably will never know. That is the truth.
The Baltic Sea has become the theater of a new Cold War. Here below the water on the seabed, Europe is vulnerable.
Watch this, watch this. Like, the amount of denial here is unbelievable. Watch this.
That's where essential modern infrastructure is located. Pipelines, data cables,
No.
power lines.
Really? What
If
kind
they
of
are
pipelines?
destroyed, gas and electricity supplies will be cut off. That would be a catastrophe. Millions
Catastrophe.
of households depend on them.
Just to be clear, this was uploaded 10 days ago as we're making
Yeah.
this on the 2nd. This is not something from like before Nord Stream or like right after
Yeah.
Nord Stream or like this is like now. Okay, now I'm going to continue.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like the as you said, like the level of self denial and just it's I don't like my brain freezes with the level of stupidity and like double standards these guys have. Like it's just fucking crazy.
I watched the whole thing. I watched the whole thing. The whole thing is just unbelievable. I won't put you through any of the torture, but we have to finish some of this. Like, it's not even double speak, it's double think.
Yeah.
Intelligence services like Germany's BND are nervous. They're
No.
keeping a very close eye
Why are they nervous? Does the CIA or any other three-letter U.S. Atlantic agency have a gun to their head? Is that why they're nervous?
on Russian activities.
It's not just the war in Ukraine that has shown that Russia is willing and able to use violence. Violence against property, violence against infrastructure, to spy, to prepare sabotage operations. We consider the danger to be very real. This is not something abstract we'll be facing in 10 or 20 years' time. The pace at which Russia is raising tensions and speeding up measures to make it militarily capable of acting against the West means we have good reason to take a very concrete look at this threat of espionage and sabotage.
Okay, I think that's enough German comedy for today. I can't handle it anymore.
I mean, I don't know how many brain cells I just lost, but I'm sure it's like in 5 digits or something like that. It's fucking crazy.
More than watching Jordan Peterson. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I was wondering if I should go see some other extras, but I should have gotten some time. Maybe if you like that, leave a review, leave a comment, and tell me that you want to see more Drago and I reviewing propaganda. You'll get our raw reactions. It'll just be us watching propaganda, laughing our asses off. And when I say propaganda, I mean what goes off as like Western news. And documentary.
Yeah. Free press, man. Free press. Don't be racist.
Disaster month for the fans of nuts, the new age fans of nuts in NATO land.
This is in this article. It was like a review of everything important that happened in terms of what's going on the battlefield in the last month. In October, most of October at least. So I advise people to look at the article if they want to see, all the places that the Kiev regime and NATO got obliterated. And the reason why I wanted to do this,
advanced backwards.
Yeah, advanced backwards, and the Russians losing forward. It's been happening for a month at this point, It's interesting because when I saw some military sources claiming that the Kiev regime lost 20,000 soldiers at the very least, by October 15, and that number has gone considerably up, at least a couple thousand soldiers in the last 2 weeks. It's just insane. And these people they keep attacking. And the interesting development that the Russians have found so far is that 46% of all military equipment that they destroyed in the Kursk Oblast in the last 4 months are of Western or NATO origin. So that what that means.
46% of the equipment, right? Not to say of the users of this equipment.
The users are all alive, like because they're super soldiers, because they fight for democracy, they can't die. But the whole point is like 40. That's like almost half of all the equipment they had before, and interestingly, they're performing far worse now when half of their equipment is NATO than they were performing when most of their equipment, like 90% or 95 or 100 or 100% in many cases, was Soviet origin. So that brings us to the topic that we discussed many times before, and that is the fact that the Russians, or the Soviets, if you want, were making their equipment for war. They made it and designed it for all the horrible conditions of warfare. Unlike Western armored vehicles and tanks, which are, to me, it seems they're made for fashion weeks or whatever you want to call them, because they perform far worse than it's marketed by their producers.
Yeah, show vehicles. No surprise there, honestly, on my part. Let's see, what have we got here? We've got two of the newer articles, which are like almost fresh. And then we've got that look into that one lady. Let me see. Yes, this is where the story starts. This is also that story. We need to click here so that you guys can't see what I can see. And then we need to pop up. Oh yeah, I wanted to bring this up. Not really. Enough times you can bring this up. When the media is behind your movement, you aren't the resistance. That's pretty sure most people get that, but just wanted to throw it out there, just in case. We got some scary Halloween stuff coming up later. Now, where were we? We were gonna do Gunter. Let's do Gunter. This is from the National Meme Coordination Body. Gunter, other than being angry at BRICS like we saw in the last episode, he's also watching Serbia's every move. So you can see us all shaking. Yeah. We've got that dentist waiting for him in Montenegro, Dr. Martin.
I would gladly join the dentist,
Dr. Martin.
And just to help the guy, with his
how do you call it? Optometrist, apparently too.
Yeah, stomatological issues or dental issues. So,
shout out also to Bunt, who replied to him. What you gonna do about it?
By the way, if I'm not mistaken, the guy on the picture, we don't see his face, but he should be Ibrahim Traore, if I'm saying that right. And he's one of the guys that some of my acquaintances from the United States, they're calling these countries, the three of these countries, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, they're calling them the old Mali Empire, and it does seem as if the territory they encompass is very similar to what the Mali Empire was back in the 13th and 14th century, if I'm not mistaken. So this is how Putin is helping African sovereigntists, or the extremists, as NATO would say. They're probably extremists and terrorists. I mean,
you're saying Putin is conquering former African empires and making them Russia. That's all I heard.
Yeah.
That's all I heard.
Yeah. essentially, the evil Russians are taking over.
He's using Wagner to steal, basically, diamonds.
Yeah. I mean, the evil Russians are just taking all these, all these natural resources from those poor Africans, who were actually living in freedom and democracy before the Russians, and they were nothing was stolen from them, especially by the French, and especially not all of their gold and uranium and all these other things that they
There's a movie about it. I think there's a movie about the Russians in Africa. I think it's called Blood Diamond.
Yeah.
Getting back to this clown, the thing that keeps on giving, as far as content for comedy. Again, shout out to National Meme Coordination Body of Serbia, obviously. So, for people who've been paying attention, this clown took his wife's last name, when he got married, and also changed it on his Twitter, which goes even further. But in any case, so somebody in chat, as I mentioned in the last talk, looked into it. Where is it here? Gunther Jena. So Annabelle had a look into, but his interests aren't limited to geopolitics. From a British hotel last year, he announced, "I call to UK to join the global European standards for plugs." Makes sense. It's not an ideological issue, just common sense. So Gunther is married to this lady, and this lady turns out, where's this tab? Come on. Is it here? No, it's here. Yes. This lady, turns out this site wants a lot of my info, so I'm not going to click accept here, so they can't get any of my info. But this lady works for this company called Herald Business Data GmbH. And this is what, in Austria, obviously. I don't know what they do. I haven't looked deep into it. But she is their lead data analyst. So hi there, Miss Isle Frölein Jahren. As you're a data analyst, I'm sure this data is going to get to you. So hi there. I wonder if your Austrian company, being, as neutral as Switzerland was, works for any NATO entities.
Yeah, because this guy is obviously extremely pro-NATO. And it seems he's the one who's getting pegged by that woman, considering that he also got her last name. So,
how is Russia growing faster than the US and the EU? I did not time this. This was not planned. I switched tabs to the next article, and this is the next thing. How is this possible? I cannot understand it. How? Does it have anything to do with the gas and that pipeline that we were discussing, that German propaganda? We should call this the German propaganda episode.
Yeah.
These episodes never get the name that I declare. Russian economy zooms ahead, outpaces US and EU growth. Combined?
Well, I mean, yeah, nearly.
Almost
if you really think about
from
it.
From these numbers I'm looking at, if these are the actual numbers, then it's almost combined, which is nuts.
Yeah.
Continue, please, Drago. Sorry to interrupt.
But the whole point is, of course, the Russian economy is not bigger than the European or the American economy. It's just that its growth actually outpaces both the U.S. and
it's not an economy. It's a gas station. You're forgetting. It's a gas station.
Right. A gas station with nukes. It doesn't produce anything of value, right? So. The interesting thing is one of the top-ranking economic experts from the UK, Richard Connolly, if I'm not mistaken, that it should be his name. Let me check in the article.
Wait,
I'm not really sure.
While you check that, I want to draw attention to the fact that, regarding the other thing that you were talking about, their failures and the Russian failing forward and the Ukrainian advancing back. I brought this up with George in a recent recording, and I pulled it up just now. The German press continues to admire the success of the Russian armed forces at the front and states that in this week alone, Russian troops have captured 196 kilometers squared. That's all this area here. And about that whole Kursk thing that you wanted to draw attention to, this is a perfect example of like how big that Kursk area is and what's been lost since it's been taken and what's actually still being held.
Yeah, they're winning. I mean, just look at all that. Look at all the Russian gains in all of Ukraine, and then you look at that and you realize the green part dominates. Obviously, I mean, you would be blind to say otherwise.
It's clear, I think.
Yeah.
Especially because it's crucial land that's like, it's strategic. It's the strategic town of. It's the strategic town. What was it? The name of that town that they took? Suja. Yeah, Suja. Yeah. It's the strategic town of Suja. Crucial.
Yeah, obviously, like it's a strategic town, while Mariupol was irrelevant strategically. Obviously.
Irrelevant.
And so it was important before, but now it's just nothing, right?
All these. It's funny why look at these German spellings. Bachmut, Audiuku.
Yeah, like it's always funny to me how like they were saying the names in Russian for like centuries, and now suddenly they remembered there's this language that they call Ukrainian, and it's every E is replaced by an I, and they're just spamming I's everywhere, so it's ridiculous.
Let's get back to the Russian economy zooming ahead, like the Z of the special military operation. Exactly.
Yeah, I forgot. I didn't even think about that when I wrote the
zooming, man.
Yeah. I'm subconsciously, a Z fascist. So yeah.
You are.
Yeah. So this Richard Conley guy, he's like an expert on all things Russian and the Russian economy. For the UK, he's a
Russianologist.
Yeah, Russianologist, exactly. He said that Russia is experiencing the fastest economic growth in the last decade. So the interesting thing about this is how they're shifting the narrative slowly, because before that they were saying that Russia is as you said, the gas station with nukes, that the Russians are hungry, that they are that their economy is in tatters, they're going to default because the West is stealing their forex reserves, which is ridiculous, but anyway. The whole point is now what they're doing is they're complaining about the fact that when they left, or when the Western companies left Russia, this left an enormous market gap that was filled in by the Russians and some export companies from China, to Turkey, Kazakhstan, and all these other countries that just moved in and took the market share. So it's almost as if they thought that if they leave, then the Russians would just be left without all these Western goods, and they would just, accept it. I don't need, a banking system. I don't need anything. I'm just going to die of hunger, and I'm not going to do anything about it. And obviously, Russia being an advanced nation, despite what they're saying about Russia, it is an advanced nation with technologies.
The word you're looking for is civilization.
Yeah, a civilization, exactly. And it's a country with a lot of very capable people. It has a very robust IT sector. It's one of the largest in the world. So, if you, and also Runet, the Russian portion of the internet, is also massive, and it's also quite sovereign. It's not exactly on the level of the Chinese one with their Chinese firewall, but it is very close to that. And they're actually building their own firewall of some kind. So the whole point is it was expected that the Russians would just fill the gaps left by Western companies. And that's exactly what happened. And now they're dumbfounded that this actually happened and that this is actually helping the Russian economy grow, because now you have domestic companies that are doing these, taking the market share and expanding even in some other countries. So that's interesting, who would have thought that the Russians would react this way? As if any of us predicted it.
Who would have thought that the Russians are not gonna lay down, play dead, and take it?
Yeah,
Damn
Yeah,
it!
pretty much.
We're expecting them to be so passive. By the way, in case I didn't mention it, did I mention it? I'm not eligible for monetization. I've never been. Will never be. So like, support me if you can, or share it, or tell your friends to subscribe. They don't have to watch anything; just subscribe. And and also check out the links to Drago stuff in the description. I was giggling really hard off screen while I was looking at what our last article is, because I cannot believe what the last article is. So I'm definitely going to leave that for the end, because that is like absolutely, like, excuse my French, but effing hilarious. In the meantime, we're going to watch this report from Russia 1 about electronic warfare. If I do that, then you're there. I need to find a solution. Hold on. Let me see.
Can you like remove me from the picture?
No, hold on. I'll do you one better. Filters, NVIDIA background removal. Ta-da! You've been upgraded. Better, You've been upgraded. Now people can watch this and see the subtitles when the guests are here. That's a good live solution, huh? What'd you say? Like, give us a like for that right there. The button.
I mean, before you start the video, could we do this the next time? Like, just like this, so I don't have to, make up my bed and my room.
Hey, listen, I can maybe get that software that can give you like a, AI face, so you don't even have to shave anymore.
Yeah, right.
No, but honestly, I kind of like the atmosphere of what's it called? The icon behind you. In any case, let's see.
Yeah, of course, I'm joking.
I know you're joking. I know that you shower and make up your bed. Other than for the show. Other than that, that's not your bed. Number one, and number two, it's what's it called? It's not even in shot. Anyway, back to this electronic warfare. Let's pre-bunk this electronic warfare. My new favorite word.
Вот зона поражения, залетает дрон.
Какое расстояние?
Ну, примерно 1,5 километра.
Они называют себя охотниками за беспилотниками. Отряд радиоэлектронной борьбы сейчас в засаде. Вооруженный по последнему слову техники, расчет РЭП готовится приземлить очередной дрон «Камикадзе». Установка «Пироед» включена. Беспилотник, а его винты уже слышны над головой, начинает терять управление.
Дрон над нами ищет, нас не видят.
Старший группы с позывным «Змей» даже перехватывает видеосигнал, то есть видит все то же, что и операторы FPV-дрона. Пилоты, Док и Шмель до последнего пытаются найти брешь в обороне.
Заходи.
Захожу. Это двусторонняя тренировка. Операторы БПЛА пытаются обойти средства радиоэлектронной борьбы, а расчет РЭП уничтожить дрон.
Антидроновое ружье «Гарпун», производство Минобороны. Одно из самых последних антидронных ружей.
Схватка длится не больше минуты. FPV-дрон входит в штопор и камнем падает вниз.
Все, задавили. Уронили дрон.
В Волгоградском полку подразделение радиоэлектронной борьбы было создано 1,5 года назад, когда над Днепром появились первые украинские дроны «Камикадзе». Сейчас эта группа одна из самых результативных на всем Каховском направлении.
Во-первых, мы проводим анализ применения FPV-дронов противникам, выявляем места, где они наиболее часто появляются. Плюс у нас есть свои маленькие технические секреты, которые позволяют нам скрывать маршруты противника и выставлять на них засады.
А это видео уже реальной боевой работы. Украинский FPV-дрон пытается ударить по блокпосту Волгоградского полка.
За дерево!
Вон он, где тупое дерево, падай!
Это как будто кадры из «Звездных войн», только применение боевых дронов — это уже не научная фантастика, а суровые фронтовые реалии. Чтобы технически превзойти...
Drone pilots will know what that sound means. OG drone pilots will know which generation of flightboard that is. And man, when I was talking about this like 10 years ago, nobody fucking believed me.
Противника в Волгоградском полку даже появилась своя лаборатория. Боец с позывным «Кутырь» в мирной жизни был электриком, сейчас отвечает за модернизацию средств РЭП. Его коллега, системный администратор с позывным «Директор», придумывает новые модификации FPV-дронов. Вечное противостояние щита и меча сейчас вышло на новый уровень.
Когда
Ты что-то придумал, нашел лазеечку, нашел уязвимость, рассказал ребятам, и это начало работать, начало противостоять, дроны то падают, то их перехватывают видео, а каждый успех — это чья-то спасенная жизнь.
Вот, пролетел.
Видеосигнал этого FPV-дрона тут же перехватили. Видно, как украинский оператор БПЛА методично прочесывает село. Если заметит любое движение, тут же последует удар. Мы укрылись в заброшенном доме. Расчет РЭП занял позиции неподалеку. Подлетая к засаде, беспилотник теряет управление, заваливается на левый бок и теряет высоту. Через минуту мы слышим взрыв.
Прогресс не стоит на месте. Противник совершенствуется, а мы делаем все, чтобы купировать их развитие. Нам нужно подстраиваться оперативно, быстро реагировать на все их изменения. В полевых условиях все это возможно.
Подразделение радиоэлектронной борьбы показало свою эффективность. Только за этот год бойцы Волгоградского полка уничтожили более 750 дронов. В Волгоградском полку есть свой музей, основу которого составляют сбитые беспилотники ВСУ. Это не только классические разведчики или вот такие камикадзе. Есть и уникальные экспонаты. БПЛА самолетного типа или вот, например, Баба-Яга. Ночной кошмар, способный нести до 60 килограммов мин и взрывчатки. С каждым днем на линии фронта дронов все больше, причем с обеих сторон. Сейчас в небе над Днепром редкая удача увидеть живых птиц, а не механических. Леонид Муравьев и Андрей Потапов. Вести, Херсонская область.
What a Russian poetic ending to the report, man. Hold on, let me get you this background. Filters and video. There you go. You're back.
Yeah. It's an interesting report, although they should work a bit on the translation, because what they were translating as RAP, R-A-P, it's actually R-E-B in the Russian, which means radio electronic combat. Literally, it means that's what it means. And it essentially just EW, it's electronic warfare. So they should have worked on whoever translated it. That was the only mistake I saw. Just wanted to, point it out what RAP is. Essentially, it's not RAP, it's R-E-B. And I find their flag very interesting. The red flag with the woman in white, and that's essentially the Rodina Mat, or motherland statue that's on Mamayev Kurgan in Volgograd. And it's like a monument to the Battle of Stalingrad and the soldiers who died fighting the Germans there.
Yeah, Russian electronic warfare, drone warfare, I don't know. I just get pissed off that nobody listened to me like 10 years ago when I was telling everyone. But that's why I'm not telling you what I'm telling everyone now. In any case, let's get into this little gem. This is apparently Russians testing some infrared heat-seeking anti-drone gun.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
Вижу. Летит.
You get to see all three perspectives. So this is like, by the way, for everybody who's an actual drone pilot from ye olde days when we used to have spotters, watch this. The guy who's watching the guy fly the drone is called the spotter. And legal requirements when you're flying FPV require you to have a spotter and to be flying within line of sight. So everybody who's flying FPV outside of that is doing it illegally. Now back to here. So the spotter's perspective is this guy who we're watching it from, with his iPhone and like a retard filming vertically instead of horizontally. And then we're gonna get the drone that's intercepted. We get its perspective. And then we also get the perspective of the intercepting drone. And here, I don't know if you guys saw that, but it looks like where's my cursor? This is the interceptor, and it hits this drone and it keeps going. So it looks like the interceptor drone may be reusable, even though it makes contact with this drone here. And this is the bad guy or bogey vision. And there it is. The interception is successful, and he has lost ability to fly, to put it lightly. And this is the perspective from the actual drone, although it's tilted, so you got to do this with your head on screen, but I got to do this with my head. So what we're looking at here is this is the ground, obviously the horizon, because it's horizontal. And this is the sky up here because it's lighter, obviously colder. And here is the drone that it's hunting as it's going, and it gets closer, and there it is, and it smacks into the drone and keeps flying. So yeah, my take is that it is highly likely that this is a reusable interceptor drone. This guy's hilarious. He's touching it with a gun. He's like, I ain't touching that thing. It could be evil. But no, in all seriousness, like, I know why he's not touching it with the gun, because those propellers could spin at any moment, and like he doesn't want to lose a finger. So like,
I just want to point out a bit about historical perspective here, because it's about a drone hitting another drone. Actually, the Russians were the first, and that was in World War I, who had this concept called Taran, which was about hitting the enemy of, let's say, airplane, because it wasn't a fighter jet, obviously, in the World War I, hitting the enemy biplane, if we can call it that way, hitting it physically, and that was a way for them to shoot it down. So the Russians were always crazy about this, like, they were always about physical contact. They were never like thinking, let's shoot it down with something, like a machine gun or a rifle. In their mind, it's like just slam into it and make sure it goes down.
So wait, you're telling me that during World War I, Russian pilots used to like ram or tip like with their wings into each other? Or other pilots,
both
as
that
enemy pilots?
and ram, but they would usually ram and then hope for the best to see if they can bail out. It's the most Russian thing ever, man.
Wait, I got an idea. Let's go to war with Russia.
If you're out of missiles on a fighter jet, you can always slam into an enemy jet. So
time out. So you got suicide by cop, which is in the States. You got suicide by safari in Bryansk Oblast, which is like next level, like suicide by FSB. And then you got like suicide by Russia, which is like on the level of European Union. That's what's
slam
going on.
yourself into Russia. It's going to work out very well, just like the previous 25 times. So
all right, we've got some really scary Halloween memes. Digest from the most recent Halloween, 2 of them, and then we've got a CNN report, and then we've got your last article. What order do you want to do them in?
Let's do the article last. I guess it's more interesting to see the memes before.
All right, let's do one of the really scary Halloween memes. This one comes to us from Putinger's Cat, translated from Russian. How to scare Americans on Halloween. I think this is an effective, scary meme for Americans. Well, some Americans, maybe. Maybe others want to see him on the ballot.
Who vote for Kamala. All
right.
3 of them.
Let's do the CNN report now. CNN doesn't need subtitles, so I don't have to give you the fake green screen. The reason that I bring this up is because CNN, obviously fans of Working Brother, obviously like read Drago's work, and have seen Drago say millions of times that one missile can take out all of France and all of Poland, same one missile. So they decided to do a report on it, and I sent it to Drago just so he'd know that we were going to talk about it, and he's like, well, actually, I have some edits about what they're saying. So let's watch the CNN report, and let's hear what Drago has to say.
Intercontinental ballistic missile. Russian state media says the Satan II, as it's called,
Satan II,
could actually wipe out an area.
As it's called by you motherfuckers, because you named it that. It's not called by anybody other than you guys, because you named it that. It's actually called the Sarmat.
Size of Texas or France. So let's talk more about this with our senior international correspondent, Matthew Chance, who's joining
Texas
us
or
from
France.
Moscow. So, Matthew, what more do we know about this missile?
What more do we know about this missile, Matthew?
Well, it was commissioned back in 2010, so it's been a sort of very
2008, but anyway.
By the way, I'm not being racist. She has like injections in her lips. I'm making fun of the fact that she has like silicone lips that are like half her face, not the fact that she's African American, or African British, I guess is the term in
really
this case.
Don't understand, like, why would she want fillers in her lips if she's African American? They have nice lips, like naturally normal nice lips.
Anybody
crazy.
who puts anything fake, like this is the stance of a working brother here. Anything who puts anything fake into their like image, including like, you know, a comb over or like dyeing your hair or, you know, lips or men like, you know, shaving or like replanting or implanting hair from like other body parts is just like wrong. It's like you got issues, man. You got issues, and like you're not gonna solve it with like the way you look to the world or to yourself in the mirror. So yeah, CNN, unsurprisingly fake. Where do I know this guy from? Who's this guy? Remind me who. Oh, he's the main Moscow guy. That's where I know him from.
Matthew, what more do we know about this missile?
Did you see that?
She's trying to see the guy because of the hair.
Well, it was commissioned back in 2010.
So you're saying 2008, huh?
Yeah.
Feel free to tell me to pause him anytime.
It's been a sort of very badly kept secret by.
What does that mean? Like
it was never a secret. It was a publicly available program where you would know, the public knew what the requirements for the Russian military were, and because Russia and the United States have a number of these international like arms control agreements, the Russians had to report on how the development of this missile was going, just like the U.S. has to report about the developments of its missiles, although the Russians already see that they're failing in everything. So
badly kept secret. Badly kept secret.
Russians. If its military abilities are real, which is what everybody expects, then it's quite a formidable weapon, a very formidable weapon. It can hit any target on either side of the United States, for instance. It's powerful enough to destroy a country, a single missile the size of France. It can carry up to 15 warheads. It can evade missile defenses quite effectively as well. Yeah. And so it's a pretty awesome sort of missile. But I mean, hopefully it won't ever be used. But the real political value of this is that it shows that Russia is still a nuclear superpower, that it can still compete. It has power.
Still, as opposed to Drago, you want to tell us?
It has always been.
Why is he saying still? Like, was there any doubt that they were still nuclear?
They were a nuclear superpower even in the fucking 90s when they had like 25,000 nukes. Like, why do people think that they were never a superpower? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Maybe he's just trying to remind people gently.
Yeah. Gently.
Let's see what happens here.
With the United States when it comes to nuclear weapons. I think that's its main importance at the moment in Russia.
So the main importance is scaring the West.
Yeah. As for the number of its warheads, it varies significantly. Like this missile is sort of like a modular version of the previous one, of the previous Satan, as NATO calls it. The Russian name is Voivoda, obviously, which means like some kind of. The direct meaning is a duke, but it just means someone who's like.
Time out.
Yeah.
Isn't the name Sarmat? Or
yeah,
the first one is Voivoda.
Its name is Sarmat, but I'm talking about the previous missile that is the missile that Sarmat is supposed to replace. It's called R-36M2 Voivoda, and this is the RS-28 Sarmat. So the whole point is. This missile is supposed to replace that one.
So there's time out. So there's no Sarmat 2. Sarmat is 2 of Voivoda, basically, is what you're telling me.
Not really. Like the whole point is they have a similar size, although Sarmat is a bit longer, and they're supposed to fit in the same silos.
That's what she said.
That's what she said. Yeah.
Did you see her? She was like, "Tell me about it. Tell me about this missile."
He's flirting with the guy. Anyway, the Russians have 48 RS-36 M2 or Voivoda, or the first Satan missile, and it's expected that they will produce about up to 50 of these Sarmats to replace, all of the Voivodas which are being retired now. So the whole point is it's about the modularity of the Sarmat. The previous missile, the one that the Russians still have, the Voivoda one that I'm talking about, the R-36 M2,
Isn't Voivoda, like, at least in Serbian, also warlord? Is it also a warlord in Russian?
Yeah, well, it in a way it is. This is what I was trying to explain. Although the name Voivoda is also like a noble title among Slavs, and it could be translated as duke. So essentially, like, it has those two meanings.
Three meanings, open to interpretation. It can be a duke, it can be a warlord. You make your choice. Don't make us use it as a warlord type of thing. It's a duke until it's a warlord.
He can be a civilized noble, or he can be a warlord, as you said. Take your pick. And this also ties into what we were talking about Chetniks the last time. Also, the Chetniks have the title of Voivoda for each unit, or major unit that is that they command. So if you don't want to talk to Russian Chetnik ICBMs, you better try to talk to Putin first.
Wait. Now that you mentioned Chetniks and the Serbian Voivoda, but would Serbian Voivoda necessarily be a Chetnik? Or can there be Voivodas who are not Chetniks?
Exactly, like we had Voivodas who were commanders of the regular Serbian army. They were like on the level of a field marshal, I would say.
All right, interesting. We're down to the last one. It's hilarious. Are we done with Sarmat? I think we're done with Sarmat.
I mean, I can mention a few more things if it's not like if
go on. Go on. We're not in a hurry.
Yeah.
I mean, we've already got over the hours, so it doesn't matter.
Okay. I'm going to try to keep it short. What I'm trying to say about Sarmat is it's modular. You can put all sorts of warheads on it. You can put like a 50 megaton monoblock, as it's called in the Russian military, like a 50 megaton single warhead. The purpose of which is to detonate, in the atmosphere above the United States. I mean, it's in troposphere, but that's not a story. It doesn't matter. And cause a massive EMP that essentially is going to burn out all, electricity in most of the United States, and just push it back into the 19th century, technologically speaking. That's just I think there are 5 missiles are enough to accomplish that. And if the Russians are going to build 50 of these things, you will have missiles which have up to 24 or maybe even 25 warheads. So can you imagine this thing having 24 MIRV warheads with up to 150 kilotons in each, or even 450 kilotons each? So, we're talking about the destruction of 24 major cities on the territory the size of France or the size of Texas. So, I mean, if you really want to, see how it works, well, try it.
Or Poland.
Let's try it.
Or Poland.
Yeah, I mean, Poland would it wouldn't even one missile would be an overkill for Poland. They could just use 3 or 4 of these Yars missiles, which are much smaller. The Sarmat is used against major nations, nations that Russia wants to obliterate once and for all. So if they really want to test out this theory, if they want to see if Putin is bluffing, be my guest. It's going to be a very nice 3 a.m. dawn for all of us in that case.
Speaking of 3 a.m. dawns, let me have a look outside because it's 2 a.m. and it's dark still. That's good, because you keep bringing up this 3 a.m. dawn, man. And when we were gonna start recording today, you said it as a joke that we're gonna end up recording until 2 a.m. It's now past that. So what can I say?
Let's hope my jokes remain just jokes, right?
Right, for the sake of most of us. Now, final joke of this news review. is it too soon? This was posted on November 1st, which is today as we started recording. It's now tomorrow or yesterday. It might be 3 days ago for you guys. But in any case, Ukraine secretly requests U.S. Tomahawk missiles to enable long-range strikes in conflict with Russia. Wow, that's a tongue twister, at least for me at this stage. Kiev regime's one crazy plan after another. Attack Russia with 1,000 Tomahawks. Man, I read this off screen while you were talking and I was like, no way. I didn't hear about this shit. Number one, let me remind everybody before Drago does, because like I've been reminded 7,000 times, Tomahawks are nuclear capable, and this means that Zelensky actually wants to send 1,000 dirty bombs, because that's what he was talking about 2 weeks ago, trying to create 1,000 dirty bombs and send them to Russia. Drago, tell us what this article says.
Well, you know, it's crazy how he combined this with threats of nuclear war. So as you said, just like 2 weeks ago, he was talking about acquiring nuclear weapons, which Ukraine cannot, I mean, the Kiev regime cannot do at this stage yet. But as you said, it can make dirty bombs, which is supposed to be like a better alternative, I suppose. I mean, making dirty bombs is a clear message that you don't want to destroy a military target, but that you want to destroy a civilian one. Like the point is like to increase the radiation in a certain area and make it unlivable, and you know, like it kill a bunch of people in the process. If we look at nuclear superpowers like the US and China and Russia, what they're doing is the opposite. Like they're creating new weapons which actually have a lower level of radiation. They have a higher yield, explosive yield, and a more destructive power, but less radiation. And a dirty bomb is the complete opposite of this. Like it's less destructive in terms of raw destructive power or firepower, if you want, but it's more destructive because it has more radiation. So, you know, like using the spent fuel from several of these Ukrainian former Soviet nuclear power plants to create, you know, like these dirty bomb warheads is an insane thing to do, especially against a nuclear armed country like Russia. And now he's talking about acquiring 1,000 Tomahawks, which, you know, you made a very good connection there. I didn't actually mention that in the article, but I mentioned the fact that the military experts from Kiev calculated they need 1,000 Tomahawks to destroy 12 major Russian military industrial facilities, so that they could, you know, cripple Russia's missile production. And this was like the plan, you know, this was like a realistic plan. And the crazy thing is the Americans actually said, the Pentagon said, they told Zelensky that this is a realistic plan. And I just want to remind people that in the last 45 to 50 years since the Tomahawk was inducted in service, the U.S. has fired up to 2,500 of these things in all kinds of countries, you know, like a dozen or actually dozens of countries since it started its aggression against the world, essentially. So in 40 years, they managed to produce 2,500. And now Zelensky wants wants the U.S. to give him 1,000 of these things. So considering the current state of the U.S. military-industrial complex, I calculated they would need like 30 years to deliver that many missiles to him. So, you know, Ukraine can keep winning for the next 30 years, and then it can use all these missiles. So the point is the U.S. doesn't have that many missiles to give. And even if it did, they would have to
I can imagine. Hold on, I can imagine this conversation. Like there's this Ukrainian like top general, lots of experience, like strategic mindset, you know, like he's thinking ahead. He's like, all right, we just need like 1,000. Okay, they gave us like 6 of these. We like fired 6 of these, I'm saying, or like they gave us the Storm Shadows. At least they can give us these. But if we had 1,000 of these, like we could go and we could take this air base, and that would mean that, and this would mean that, and then we could use these, and we need 1,000. And they go to the guy and they're like, yo, can you give us 1,000 of these missiles that you have? Like, you have like 100 of them, like 1,000. It's not a big ask. Well, actually, we've only ever produced like 3,000 of them. You know?
And like fired
Or
most
5.
of them at the countries,
Yeah.
for not being democratic. So, I mean, it's ridiculous to even think that would succeed. And the craziest part is the Kiev regime knows that the Russians have actually fired at least 5,000 missiles so far at Ukrainian or let's say former Soviet military facilities all over Ukraine that are under the control of the Kiev regime. So the Russians have done this, and they've obliterated most of the facilities, but some of the facilities are still there. So even for the Russians, it wasn't enough. 5,000 cruise missiles, which are like the Caliber and the KH-101, which are similar in nature to the Tomahawk, they were not enough to cripple, to completely destroy and obliterate the Kiev regime's military industry. So, and how the hell can you destroy the Russian military industry, which is like orders of magnitude bigger, with 5 times less? Even if they were nukes, you wouldn't be able to do that. So
and spread out geographically a little bit more than the Ukraine one, a little bit more,
and probably well outside of the range of the Tomahawk if they're like in Novosibirsk or some other area in Siberia or far eastern Russian Far East. So this doesn't make sense. The whole plan is crazy in multiple levels, because first of all, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't really work because first of all, the Russians have actually shot down a bunch of these in Syria, and they've studied them. They've captured some of those which fell in pretty good condition. So they know how to fight against these things. So I've seen videos. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have seen videos of the Russians shooting down a Storm Shadow, a Scalp EG, these stealthy, much more advanced air-launched cruise missiles. So a Tomahawk isn't exactly like a new technology for them. They have far more advanced missiles. So a lot of these missiles would get shot down. So even let's say even 200, if 200 of them go over the Russian air defenses and are not shot down, that's a lot of missiles. They could do a lot of damage. However, they would never be able to take out the Russian military industry. So what you would do is you would only anger the Russians. You would, you could possibly escalate the conflict, which is probably what the Kiev regime wants. So it doesn't work in any way. If you do it, you might escalate the conflict. And if you try to if you try to acquire all those missiles, it's going to take you a long time. And in the end, it's not going to make any sense because you're going to lose too much already. They don't have the time necessary to acquire these missiles, even if the U.S. wanted to give them 1,000 of these, even like 300 of these. It's not viable.
Like you were saying, the florist, our friend Hawkin, he said many times, maybe a year ago now, that all the money in the world is not going to print you all the weapons that you need to get this to where it's going, because they can print the money, but they can't print the factories and the knowledge that it takes to assemble these things.
Exactly.
Drago,
1,000 missiles, 1,000 Tomahawks is like $5 billion. So that's just a fraction of the money that they are getting. But just as you said, and as Joaquin pointed out, you don't have the factories to produce that many. So you could have $1 trillion. It means nothing, because you don't have the means to produce those things. So you're 100% right.
I'm gonna call this the movie episode because we're 1 hour and 20 minutes in, so it's like feature length movie. But we did cover a lot of things, and we're finally done with everything that we have to cover. I've got the last meme, the scary Halloween winner. Save the best for last. I'm going to flash that up for a second near the end, but this time I'm actually going to ask you, on the whole, after these 3 recordings, is there anything that you think you may not have said that we did not bring up, unrelated maybe to any of this, that you want to touch on?
Yeah, let's talk about the Chetnik history, man. It's just going to be 5
minutes. Sure. Can you just distinguish it with
Let's start with etymology.
Why don't you actually start with Rurik?
Or before that, with Serbian history that goes like 15 centuries back. So yeah.
I was thinking Ty Rurik to Stefan Nemanja. In any case, all right, I'll play some music here. By the way, music from John Woo. Check out the talks with John Woo. That'll get you some good laughs. And for the final, we've got the scariest possible Halloween.
Oh, free pal, Esteen. So that's like your pal who's a Jew, Esteen?
Oh my God. Does free Palestine signify that Epstein guy didn't kill himself? I don't know. Seriously, this is the best Halloween setup that I've seen. This is scary to so many people. Like, just the idea, the concept, it's like terrifying. Thank you for sticking around, everybody who stuck through this extremely long Working Brother Talks.
Oh yeah.
See you all soon. Have a good one. Drago, thank you, as always. Peace out. See you later.